I was about 13 when this happened, and I lived right on the beach. If you walked about 1.5 kilometers down the beach from my house, you would get to a place where some of the ocean would be left behind to form a sort of lake where me and a lot of my friends liked to hang out. It was next to 2 dirt roads. Anyway, I had a German Shepherd, and my mom used to kick me out of the house every weekend for a few hours to go play with the dog, which I did not mind. Above the beach was a forest-covered cliff that overlooked the water. You could walk along it to reach the lake, and I've done it countless times before. It was quiet and shaded, a nice alternative to trudging through the hot sand, especially on days like this one, when the heat was unbearable. As I made my way through the forest, my dog ran ahead off-leash, sniffing and exploring like usual. That's when I heard something. Muffled footsteps behind me. The thing was, it was almost impossible to walk quietly in this forest because of all the dried leaves and branches. It didn't sound like someone was just walking. It sounded like someone was trying not to be heard. I didn't look. I just ran. I bolted straight towards the forest exit, and the whole time, I felt like the footsteps were getting louder, closer. I didn't look back, just kept running until I broke out of the tree line into the open space around the lake. I was relieved. It was bright, open, and I spotted a friend of mine, a girl I knew, already down by the water. My dog was splashing around nearby. I didn't think much of what had happened in the woods, at least not yet. A few minutes later, we noticed a man approaching us. He was tall, probably close to 2 meters, and very slim. He spoke to us kindly at first, polite even. We responded in kind. At that age, we didn't think much of being polite to strangers. I didn't immediately connect him to the footsteps I heard in the forest. The realization would come later. He asked us a lot of questions, where we were from, if we were here alone, and if anyone else was nearby. Slowly, my friend and I started to feel uneasy. The questions felt a little too specific, a little too interested. We told him we were meeting our other friends and walked off to a different part of the lake. We sat down again, trying to shake it off when my dog suddenly started growling. She never growled at people. It startled me. I looked up and saw what set her off. And there he was, now standing about 50 meters behind us, just standing there, watching. We moved again, and once again, he followed, this time getting even closer. Now we knew for sure he was following us. We were alone, and we were being stalked. My friend called her mom to come get us, but she was over an hour away. That meant we were stuck with this man lingering nearby for at least an hour. The more we moved, the closer he'd come. I put my dog back on the leash, but she was growling nonstop now, practically foaming at the mouth, lunging at him. It only seemed to encourage him. Every time we turned around, he was smiling at us. The same unsettling smile, like we were in on some kind of joke with him, like we were friends. Eventually, we saw my friend's mother's car pulling up to one of the dirt roads about 200 meters away. The only way to get there was to cross right past where the man was standing now. Her mom must have sensed that something was wrong because she suddenly started running towards us. That made the man take notice, and that was our cue to run. I let go of the leash and sprinted. I don't think I've ever ran that fast in my life. My dog ran with us, barking like mad. We dove into the car. Just as the man started running towards us, we locked the doors. He reached the car seconds later, screaming and throwing rocks at us. We called 112 and waited inside, trying not to panic while he continued the outburst outside. Eventually, he ran off. When the police arrived, they questioned and searched the area, but never found him. Even now, I sometimes wonder if he's still out there in the forest, waiting for the next kid to wander alone. I didn't even know my friend would be there that day. I didn't have a phone, no way to call for help, and honestly, if it had just been me, I don't know if my dog could have stopped him. So to the man who stalked 2 kids and tried to corner us at the lake, let's not meet again. I was 16, and I had just met a kid down the street from my house. He said that he saw me around and we should go hang out. I figured why not, so I gave him my number and told him to hit me up. The next week comes around, and I get a text from him asking if I wanted to play basketball. Of course I did. He asked if I smoke weed. I did, and asked me to bring some, which isn't out of the ordinary for teenagers. I brought a couple friends since we were going to play sports. To be honest, I was really fucking stoned by the time I got there. It was a little out of our neighborhood, but wasn't in a bad area, so I wasn't bothered. I was an idiot. It was a gang who ambushed us as soon as we got out of the car. They violently beat me and my 2 friends, and I got it the worst. There were 3 of them on each of us. They stabbed my best friend, luckily not very bad. They choked me unconscious, held a gun to my head, and pistol whipped me. They ran my pockets and got my cell phone and wallet. I swear at one point I actually died because I literally shit myself when I went unconscious. I was drenched in my own blood. My nose was broken. Both eyes swelled shut later. They had to wake me up because I drove stick and none of my friends could drive my car. My attacker literally had to resuscitate me in order for me to leave. I stopped at a gas station because I had shit my pants and I couldn't see with the blood in my eyes. As soon as I got in, the clerk's jaw dropped. "Where's the bathroom?" He pointed the way. I cleaned up the best I could, then drove home. I got home, called the cops, and showered. The cops obviously thought it was my fault for being an idiot. Nonetheless, an undercover showed up and knew exactly who robbed me because they lived on the same street, 2 blocks apart. Turns out they had turned to an informant, and he reneged on the deal and robbed the buyers in a controlled buy. I told them how violent they were and swore that they would kill someone. I did a photo lineup, but they all looked the same to me, so no case. 2 months later, the cops knock on my door. My mom was super pro cop and told them that I was asleep in my room and turned them loose on me. They woke me up and held a photo and said, "Who's this?" How would I know? I've never seen that person before. "You called this person from your cell phone." The cell phone I reported stolen in a violent robbery to the police? They looked stunned and stupid. They beat me almost to death. You should probably go ahead and read the police report. They apologized and explained that my cell phone had been used to set up a robbery and the person in the photo had been shot to death. I replied with, "I told you guys they would kill the next guy." They came in blazing glory and left in shame. I have PTSD now and have kept tabs on my assailant for 17 years. I have no ability to trust anyone, not even those closest to me. Anyway, let's not meet again. I've been a long-time lurker, but I thought it was finally time to share something that stuck with me for years. Back in the early 2000s, my family and I lived in Liverpool, in the northwest of England. The area we were in had a reputation. High levels of deprivation, a long-standing issue with substance abuse, and a general roughness that everyone just sort of accepted. I'm the youngest of 4, and by the time I was in high school, my siblings were already starting families of their own, so it was just me and my mom at home. She worked as a nurse and often picked up night shifts, which meant I was usually left alone in the evenings. The neighbors would check in now and then, but I didn't mind the solitude. When my mom was at work, I would do little things around the house to help out. Cleaning, cooking, putting the washing out. We didn't have a back garden, so the clothesline was in front of the house, facing the street. During the summer, I'd often leave the front door open for the breeze, and it wasn't unusual. Most families in the estate did the same. Kids running in and out of each other's houses, doors always swinging open. That's when I started to notice it. Clothes would go missing off the line. At first, I thought it was just the wind, or maybe a kid playing a prank. But it kept happening, and it was always the same type of clothing, my underwear mainly. Even when no one was outside, even on calm days, items would vanish. And as more and more things disappeared, stranger things began to happen. I'd come downstairs to find the front door wide open after I definitely closed it. Sometimes the entire washing line would be pulled down with only certain clothes taken from the pile. I noticed handprints on the window. I told myself they were mine, just opening and closing them, but the thought kept gnawing at me. I was scared. I didn't want to be alone at night anymore. My imagination was getting the better of me, but something felt wrong. I told my brother what was going on and asked if he could pick me up just for the night. The next morning, my brother got a call from my mom. She was furious. She said I needed to come home and clean up the mess I had left behind. He came with me, ready to explain that I wasn't in a good place mentally, hoping she would go easy on me. But when we walked in, everything changed. There were muddy footprints across the floor, too big to be mine. They hadn't been there when I left. The living room was in disarray, pillows thrown around, dirty dishes left out, glasses tipped over. My mom was pacing, frustrated and exhausted after a long shift. She kept asking, who else could have done it? Telling me I was the only one in the house after all. She told me to tidy up while she went upstairs to get some rest. But as she reached the top of the stairs, she stopped cold and called out to my brother. Every door upstairs was open. Every room had been rifled through. Our underwear drawers had been pulled open, clothes scattered across the floor. The beds looked like someone had been in them, slept in them even. Cigarette butts were on the carpet, mashed into the flooring. Someone had been in our house, and it looked like they made themselves comfortable. My brother sent me and my mom downstairs and called the police. While we waited, he checked the rest of the house. That's when he found the bathroom light on. Tub was full, a dirty ring left around where the water had sat undrained. A used teacup rested by the sink, but the worst part was what I found sitting on top of the toilet. Several pairs of our underwear, soiled and left behind. That's when he had to step out of the room. When the police arrived, they told us it was most likely a homeless person or someone under the influence, someone looking for a warm place to sleep. They didn't steal anything, not even the jewelry that was clearly visible from my mom's dresser. They said there wasn't much they could do other than advise us to keep the doors and windows locked at all times. After that, I was no longer allowed to stay home alone at night. Nothing quite like that ever happened again, but even after that, the underwear would still occasionally go missing from the line. To this day, I'm not sure what to think. Was it a coincidence? Just a desperate person passing through? Or was someone watching the house? Watching me? I still don't know, but the memory unsettles me even now. Just yesterday, I went to a friend's house for a small get-together. It was great. We laughed a lot, had fun, and left around 9 p.m. I had rode my bike there from home, but when it was time to leave, I realized my phone was dead. No GPS, no flashlight, just me and my bike in the dark. I started zigzagging through unfamiliar streets, trying to find my way home. At one point, I stopped at a crosswalk to catch my breath. That's when I noticed someone behind a tree wearing a blue hoodie. He raised his arm and waved at me. It was weird. I didn't wave back. I just got on my bike and kept moving. A few streets down, I suddenly heard heavy breathing and fast footsteps behind me. I turned around, and it was the guy in the blue hoodie, a white male, running straight at me. I pedaled like hell, and as I sped away, I heard him yell, "Fuck you!" I made it to a barbecue restaurant, hoping to duck inside, but it was already closed. I looked back. He was still following me. I kept pedaling, heart pounding, until I reached the AutoZone near my house. When I finally glanced behind me again, he was gone. For a second, I thought it was over, until I heard a voice near the front of the AutoZone. A male voice, laughing manically. The laughing faded into the distance like he was walking away. I booked it home, locked everything, and tried to sleep, but the paranoia kept me awake. So did the guy in the blue hoodie with the crazy laugh. Let's not meet again. This happened a few years ago, and I've never told anyone about it. I don't know why I'm posting it here now, but it's been on my mind, and I guess I just need to get it out. At the time, I lived pretty far out in the country. Just me and my dog, no close neighbors, and it was usually really quiet. I liked it that way. One night, I woke up in the middle of the night to my motion sensor light going off outside. At first, I thought it was just an animal, maybe a deer or something, but when I looked out my window, I saw a man standing at the end of my driveway. He wasn't moving, just standing there, facing my house. I don't know why, but I froze. I stood there staring at him, and he didn't move at all. The light went off after a while, and everything went back to dark and quiet. I didn't sleep much after that. The next night, it happened again. The light came on, and there he was. Same spot, same stillness, just standing there staring at my house. By this point, I was starting to get really freaked out. I called the sheriff department, and they sent someone to check it out. By the time they got there, he was already gone. The deputy told me that it was probably some drunk guy or someone passing through, and that I shouldn't worry about it unless he started coming closer. This didn't make me feel better, but I tried to move on. This went on for about a week. Every night, like clockwork, I'd wake up and see him standing there at the end of the driveway. It was always the same. He never moved, never said anything, just stood there staring at my house. It got to the point where I started closing the blinds at night, but it still felt like I could feel him out there. And then, just like that, it stopped. I never saw him again after that week. No explanation, no reason. It just ended. I never told anyone about this before. It's probably not a big deal, but it's something that stuck with me. I just needed to write it down. My brother and I were driving between two medium-sized cities one late night a couple weeks ago. We live in Sweden, so it was pitch black. On the stretch of road, there's nothing but forest, and at this time of night, the road is pretty empty. It's kind of a narrow road without much space on the sides. It has a low railing along the sides, and behind them were high fences to prevent wildlife. Suddenly, we see a person on the inside of the railing in our headlights, 10 meters in front of the car. My brother was driving over 80 kilometers per hour, so he didn't have a chance to make a maneuver. We drove by that person no more than half a meter in full speed. We were shocked, and after a few seconds, we both wondered what the hell that was. It happened so fast, but we agreed that it was a young woman dressed in black who was leaning or sitting in a strange way against the railing. Behind her on the other side of the railing stood a man in black, hugging or holding her from behind with both arms. Behind them was the high fence, so how did they even get there? There were no cars nearby, and there wasn't even anywhere to stop with a car. After a minute, we decided to call the police. They asked us to turn around to see if they were still there. We got back, but unfortunately they were gone. The police came and started searching with headlights, and we continued driving home. My brother and I were shaken up, and this still haunts me. What was the deal with these people? Did the guy hold the girl so she wouldn't run in front of the car? Did the woman try to escape the man? The only possible way forward for them was into the forest. but they had no lamps. It was cold, and we were far away from any houses. In retrospect, it's easy to be wise, and of course, we should have stopped at once. I was walking to a bus stop after an appointment around 2 p.m., and I heard honking and noticed a car doing a U-turn. He rolled down his window and honked and motioned for me to come over. I thought he wanted directions and approached his vehicle. He then asked me, "Are you busy?" I told him, "I'm not." And he asked me to get into his car. I told him, "No, I'm sorry," and quickly walked away. I'm a very anxious person and don't go out much, so I wanted to know what he wanted from me. He looked to be in his 60s with gray hair, sunglasses, so much older than me. I was wearing leggings with an oversized X-File tee, so not exactly dressed to impress. I really feel dumb for getting that close to his vehicle, as it's a quiet area away from the main road. Did he think I was a prostitute or something? So I'm pretty sure I'm overreacting when I think about it, but just in case. Background info. I'm a 15-year-old girl, and the man in this situation was, from my view, a middle-aged Middle Eastern man. Exactly 1 week ago, I was in Sydney for the holidays, and it was my first time in the city. It was around 11 a.m. I was walking by myself around Hyde Park, and I was tearing up. I got into a fight earlier with my mom, so I ran off, trying to find a secluded area. I was kind of doing that thing where you walk fast and you try not to cry. I was walking on the street where the bus stations were, and this man stopped me and asked if he could take a picture. At first, I was skeptical, of course. I thought it was a scam where he would ask for money for the pics, or he was going to do something. I was kind of caught off guard in the moment because I was in distress, so I just stood there and said nothing with an unsure face. Then he whipped out his iPad and showed me his profile on a site called Flickr. I've now searched it up, and it's a photography website, so I kind of feel bad now. I saw pictures of girls smiling. The background of the pics looked like the park. There were trees, so I felt less cautious and asked him, "In this park, right?" He responded that it would just take 10 to 15 minutes and that we would go find somewhere to take the picture. I thought about it for 5 seconds and ended up saying no, because I wasn't in the right state of mind. Even if I was, I think I would have said no. Then he kept trying to say that it would only take 10 to 15 minutes and that we should go. But I just said no and walked away. I still feel kind of bad about the whole thing, because his reaction after was kind of a disappointed smile. But now that I think about it, I don't think he even had a camera. Maybe he did. I don't remember. I was overwhelmed, and immediately after, I went into the park and found an empty space on the grass and started bawling. I told my family, and of course, they all agreed that he had bad intentions, but I'm still really unsure about how I feel about the whole thing. What if it's his actual job? I don't think he picked me because he thought I was a tourist or a minor, because I've gotten hit on by older guys, and some people think I'm older than I actually am. The fact that I was visibly vulnerable from being on the verge of breaking down, and the guy still tried to convince me and talk to me, gives me doubts, but who knows? Stuff like this has been happening to me a lot recently. I constantly get stares from people. Most are men who just act so weird around me. They either go quiet when I near them, or some of them try to start combos with me. This is making me really paranoid of everyone around me. I'm kind of scared to go out by myself. Even when I go out with my mom, sometimes weird stuff happens. I don't know what to do. When I was 14, my family moved from our home in England to the Republic of Ireland. We lived there for the next 6 years. Our first stop was the northwest of the country, But after a year, we relocated again to Irish Midlands after my dad got a new job in Dublin. My parents bought a small cottage on the outskirts of the teeny village, the kind of place that felt more like a rest stop between two larger towns than a real destination. There was almost nothing to do. But not long after settling in, I took to exploring the surrounding countryside with our border collie Maisie. That's how I discovered this vast stretch of bogland, dotted with a man-made forest and crisscrossed by a railway line used to transport peat. It became my go-to escape. I'd walk to the bogland with Maisie, following the tracks for hours. After several months of this routine, I stopped going. I'm not sure exactly why. Maybe it was the constant blisters from the uneven terrain, or maybe it was the vague sense that I wasn't supposed to be there, even though I wasn't trespassing. Whatever the reason, I started to avoid it. Instead, I began visiting the public forest near the town where I went to school. Since it was about a 20-minute drive, my dad would drop me and Maisie off and come back a couple hours later. I liked this forest more. It was peaceful, rarely crowded, and felt safe. Occasionally, we would walk past another dog walker or jogger, but for the most part, we had this place to ourselves. One evening, my dad dropped us off as usual. The sun was already beginning to set, and I didn't want to be caught out there in the dark, so I decided to take a shortcut back towards the car park. I veered off the main trail onto a narrow side path that wound deeper through the trees. As I followed the trail, Maisie trotted ahead of me. We came across a small teepee-like shaped hut made of logs. I used to play little games there with Maisie, hiding inside the structure while she circled around confused, trying to find me, unaware that she could just walk inside. I don't remember if we played that game that day, but I remember turning around suddenly and seeing someone. A man had just stepped onto the same side trail. He was about 20 meters behind me. Something about him immediately unsettled me. I couldn't tell you exactly why. Maybe it was because of the way he was walking or the way he appeared so suddenly, but I felt it. That instinctive, gut-level discomfort. I quickly clipped Maisie's lead back on and picked up my pace, heading back towards the main trail. By the time I reached it, the light had faded even more. I glanced back again. The man was still there, now only 10 meters behind. I told myself I was overreacting. Maybe he was just out for a walk like me. Maybe it was a coincidence. But something still felt off. I pulled out my phone to call my dad, just to check if he was waiting at the car park. No answer. I assumed he was still driving and hoped he would be there soon. When we finally made it to the car park, it was nearly pitch black. Only one car was there, and it wasn't my dad's. I sat on the bench near a picnic table with Maisie beside me and waited. I checked my phone. No calls, no texts. Then I hear footsteps. The same man emerged from the forest. I braced myself, staring at my phone, pretending to be distracted, hoping that he would just walk past. And thankfully, he did. But instead of leaving, he got in his car in the lot, turned on the engine and headlights, and just sat there. He wouldn't leave. I waited 5 minutes, 10, 15. My dad still hadn't arrived. The man still hadn't moved. I kept trying to call my dad and text my dad, but I got no response. I kept telling myself there could be a simple reason why this man hadn't driven off, but none of those reasons felt convincing. All I could hear was the low hum of his engine and the stillness of the forest behind me. Maisie, who was already a naturally anxious dog, started whining. She was digging ferociously at the ground under the bench, creating a shallow hole for her paws. She wouldn't settle down. It only made me more nervous. I couldn't help but wonder if she was picking up on something I couldn't. Finally, after what felt like forever, the man put his car in reverse and pulled out of the parking lot, disappearing down the road. He had his engine and headlights running the whole time, yet waited nearly 20 minutes before leaving. About 10 minutes later, my dad finally showed up. His excuse? He forgot he was supposed to pick me up. To this day, I don't know if this man was actually following me. I don't know why he sat there for so long with his engine running. But I do know this: always trust your gut and never go walking in the forest alone, as it's getting dark. I've never posted here before, but I think this encounter might be worth sharing. It certainly scared the crap out of me at the time. It was 2001. I was a single mom, 34 years old at the time, and my son was 10. I took my son to his elementary school on the way to work. My schedule allowed for it, and it was nice to start our days out together. I'd drop him off and head to work that was about 10 minutes away. I had to cross over the river that ran through the city. I've always hated stopping on bridges at traffic lights, and this light seemed extra long. Glancing around as I waited, I was watching people in their cars, the river, and the traffic light that seemed to be stuck on red. Looking in my rearview mirror, I noticed a little, white-haired old lady driving a little car. She was watching me in my rearview mirror as well. I was curious, so I kept looking at her, and she threw her head back and laughed or cackled. Then she looked hard at me in the mirror, made a slashing across the neck sign, then made a cradle of her arms, rocking it back and forth, and then she pointed at me. The longer I watched her, the more disturbed I was. She kept doing this over and over again, and laughing. If you are a parent, you know this is not something you prank other cars about. It felt evil, but no paranormal stuff here. Well, it had me pretty rattled, and once the light turned green, I flew up the street to get to work. And of course, I got more anxious the longer I was driving. By the time I got to work, I was in full panic and went to my office and called the school. My son was in a special class alongside his regular assigned class. If he got too restless, he could go to the special class as an accommodation. So I was able to speak directly to his teacher immediately. I told her what happened and she said, "Boy, that sounds scary," and assured me my son was okay. I often look back at this event and I don't know if it was a harbinger of doom or just an encounter with the crazy. But my son died suddenly just weeks before his 19th birthday. The last thing I said to him was, "I love you, baby."